Hey, let's do something a little bit different and watch this run out, and you pick out and you analyze the mistakes I made during the run out. When I first started filming myself, my intention was not to make YouTube videos. It was to analyze my own game in my own private world so I could improve at pool. And then over a couple of months, I figured, well, why not share this with the world and let's let everybody analyze it so they too can improve their pool games. But that's not going to work unless you actually put your brain to it. And I highly recommend that everybody films themselves and takes it home and figures out what they're doing wrong, and then take the steps to actually put that to work and practice doing it right so everybody can improve their pool game. So actually, I consider it a mistake for doing it the way I've been doing it for all these years and watching the game with you guys and figuring out and pointing out what I did wrong. Because it simply doesn't work for you to sit back and let me tell you. You have to actually think so you too can stop doing it the wrong way. And you have a lot of opportunity here in this first run out because I do a lot of things wrong, and it might be the sloppiest run out I ever put on YouTube. So let's get to it and take a look. And don't forget, you got to be all there with me in pointing out my mistakes. And you don't have to do this publicly on the comments because I'm going to tell you what I did wrong anyway. So, you're just going to be repeating that on the comments. But if you feel like you're going to forget when we get to the analytical portion of this video, then just quickly make a note of John put too much English on the 2 ball and he got bad on the 3 because he should have put this or that or, whatever. Some players, if they haven't played a whole lot of pool, feel overwhelmed in trying to figure out the whole pattern for all 10 of these balls. Or some players just never learn the right way to think. So I'm going to show you a little bit of a key to figuring out this whole pattern on this 10-ball rack. And if you start by just picking out the pockets for each ball, the pocket that you're going to shoot for each one of these balls, it almost automatically triggers your subconscious to find the pattern. You might have some touchy points here and there and have to question yourself, well, is that the right way to get from this ball to that ball or whatever? So if we agree that the 1 ball goes into this pocket, then let's agree that all 10 of these balls should be pocketed in these pockets right here. And we'll start with the 1 and go to the 2, the 3, the 4-ball, the 5-ball, the 6-ball, the 7-ball, the 8-ball, the 9-ball, and the 10-ball. The little tip here is that it's usually the pocket closest to that particular object ball, but not always. There's exceptions to this. So if we look at the 4-ball, we can see that the side pocket is closer to the 4-ball than the corner pocket that I'm shooting it into, or I plan to shoot it into. And that's just one example. There's another one with the 8 ball and the 7 ball and probably a couple more of these balls because I accidentally banged into balls and moved some balls around the table. So, because plans change during the course of not shooting these balls the right way, you could say, well, why plan anything to begin with if it's going to change? But the objective is to do things the right way. So it's important to trigger your brain and practice not just your physical game, but your mental game. And now that we know what pocket we're shooting all 10 of these balls into, we can see this wide open space to move the cue ball around and stay out of traffic and stop banging in the balls. And it's all for the sake of finding the plan, executing the plan, and winning the game. Here's my plan on the 1 ball shot. And yep, I'm going 4 rails back on the 2 to get the right position on the 2 in order to get a little bit on the left-hand side of the 3 in order to get right on the 4 ball. The shot selection is right, but there's absolutely no reason to risk hitting the 3 ball, which I wind up doing, when I could have spun it a little bit more and came right about here to drift down for the same exact position on the 2 ball. So I went into traffic knowing I could hit that 3 ball. And if you actually watch the intro, you can see me pointing to this issue before I decide to shoot it, and I should have thought about it a little bit more. So I misplanned it, I shot it too hard, and I didn't spin it enough. And you should have caught that mistake when I shot the 1 ball. So here's what we're left on the 2 ball, and chances are pretty good that some of you think I shot the 2 ball wrong by hitting a stop shot, and here's how I shot it. So it is an option because I'm straight in to pull back a little bit and get a higher angle on the 3 ball in order to just put a little bottom left on this ball and get right on the 4. But the problem with that is the 6 ball, and what is right on the 4 ball to shoot it in the top left hand corner and still get on the 5 ball. And the worst thing you want to do here is get straight in on the 4. So you want to be either a little bit on the left to go off the left-hand side rail to get right on the 5, or to be a little bit to the right side of the 4 in order to stun it over to the right-hand rail and get right on the 5. So I'm sticking with the fact that I think I shot the 2 ball right because I got the angle that I wanted on the 3 ball. What I did wrong is shoot the 3 ball wrong, not the 2 ball. And I shot it like this. And this is the mistake of putting right-hand English on that ball. And when it hits the second rail, it's going to widen the angle and spin it further back up table. And I didn't need to put right on it. I could have just shot it with straight top, and the angle would have been less coming off the second rail, and I could have got perfect on the 4 ball. And perfect would be to play the 4 ball shot and send the cue ball off the left-hand side rail and back over to the right-hand side of the table for the 5 ball. So the mistake was pretty blatant, but if you found it, good for you. And here is what we're left. And I know some of you guys are saying shooting the bank is just stupid when it's a pretty easy cut in the side, and you might think that puts you perfect on the 5 ball. But I'm going to disagree. And the reason I'm going to disagree is because I shot that cut shot about 50 billion times and wound up hitting the 7 ball because the angle coming off the second rail goes right into the 7 ball. And even if you get around the 7, there's a good chance that you're going to go way past the 5 ball and get bad on the 5 because it's a thin cut and there's just too much momentum on the cue ball, and it's going to be traveling fast with nothing stopping it. So I shot the bank because, I know that I'm going to get right on the 5 if I make the bank. And that might sound a little bit arrogant, but I've also shot that bank a billion times, and I've played a whole hell of a lot of bank pool with some of the toughest players in the world. And I've also studied the very best bank player that ever lived, and that's John Brumback. And I pretty much idolized that guy for most of my pool playing life. And there's no one better. You can put anyone up against him, and John's going to win in the long run. So, for whatever reason, I'm proficient at playing bank pool, and I should probably make more bank videos for you guys. And in fact, I think I'm going to get on that pretty soon. And I'll pretty much play anyone straight up. I won't play Bank's Ring game because, some guys get involved with trapping people, and I don't want to, even take the chance of doing that. But I'll play heads up with anyone, unless they're from Kentucky, and I will ask to see your driver's license. So if you're also a good banker and you're looking for action and you have a lot of confidence, I would recommend going to Kentucky. But you better be really, really, really good. Believe me, you'll find action and bet what you want. So here's what I did, and the reason I did it is to avoid the 7 and get right back in line on the 5 ball, as you can see. Yeah, what I should have done on this 5 ball is just killed it off the round, basically play into the 6 ball line, and we need to be a little bit on the right hand side of the 6 ball line anyway, and it wouldn't have been a problem, but for whatever reason, I chose to go 2 rails and back over in position for the 6, and it would have been fine, but this is a speed control shot, and the speed kind of got away from me a little bit, and I shot a little bit too hard, and I wanted it to stop right about here, and it actually just kept on rolling for a thin cut on the 6. So now I have, virtually no choice but to go into that 8 ball that's sitting on the route. This is a hard shot right there. And I knew it was going to hit the 8, but I also knew it was going to hit the right side of the 8, or, well, depending on how you're looking at the table. But, I still have a good shot on the 7 ball to get back on the 8. And speaking of the 8, it's in a much different place than when we first started planning this rack. So, again, I'm continually having to rethink this with each bad shot. And perhaps the worst played shot of the day was on the 7 ball, and this is what I did. And I came back 1 round and then hit the point of the side pocket to bounce back a couple inches, which leaves me no choice but to put top on the 8 ball shot and roll up a little bit to try to get right on the 9 ball, making life really kind of difficult and nerve wracking. So this is what I should have done. If we extend the line back to the rail on the 8 ball, we can see that we want to be just a little bit on the left-hand side of the 8 ball line and a whole lot closer than we wound up with. And this way I can just kind of stun draw back for perfect position on the 9 to get straight in and just draw back on the 10 ball. And all this could have been easily accomplished by putting a little bit bottom right on this cue ball when I shot the 7 to draw it back and extend this first angle to here, which would send me about to the second diamond, between the first diamond and second diamond off the left-hand side route. And then the angle is right to come up on the left-hand side of this 8 ball line. So here's what's left, and I did the best I could do with the 8 ball, and I couldn't do much with it. And I wind up right about here on the 9 ball, and there's a little bit of problem here. But I recommend working on this shot. We're putting top left on this, and we're going down to the top route and bouncing, straight back up table for the 10 ball. And the reason we're putting the left on is because it's going to kill the natural angle. If you don't do this and you just put straight top on it, the cue ball is going to get away from you, and you're going to wind up terrible on the 10 ball. So we have to kill the angle, come back up table. And this shot takes practice because people tend to overhit it or underhit it, usually overhit it, and they wind up terrible in the 10 ball anyway. So, yeah, it's a long, not quite straight in. We're a little bit, just a hair on the left side. So we can draw it back if we do. And if we try that, we're going to wind up going to the left-hand side round, not bouncing hard enough to get on the 10. So top left, little bit of a gutsy shot there. So if I was grading this run out, I would give it about a D, maybe even a D minus. And that's because I'm fighting myself the whole run out. And if you continue to play pool like this all night long, you're going to go home exhausted at best. So I actually see myself as three people, but let's reduce it down to two. And there's John the pool player, and then there's John the shopmaker. So John the pool player, makes a mess out of it and has to call on John the shopmaker to come and clean up his mess. And that shopmaker, John, just wants to take a nap. He's worked his ass off his whole life and just wants to nap. Don't wake him up. And if you continually wake them up, things are going to get kind of ugly. So you don't want to do it. The whole agenda with pool is to keep things simple. So you don't have to wake up your shop maker and get them to the table to fix what you screwed up. And that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Read the book I'm Okay, You're Okay. This was published way back, I think, in the 60s. And it became a major bestseller. And the theory I'm speaking of is all through that book. So let's just let our shop maker, nap. He needs his sleep, and let's let him be. You're pestering him. Let's just keep it simple. Let's just do it right. And the game of pool is a whole hell of a lot more enjoyable and more relaxing and more entertaining for you. Maybe not the fans, but for you. And it's the most entertaining aspect of pool itself is getting the money at the end of the night. Let's just smooth all this out and make it easier. And yeah, a D minus because I know my potential and this rack is not it. But hey, we learned a little bit, right? And isn't that the point of a YouTube video? It is for me. So there you go. Have a great rest of the week and expect another video on Friday night. And I'd appreciate it if you click the like. I hate when video makers say that. Don't forget to click and subscribe and all that stuff. I don't like that. But sometimes people forget, so just see it as a reminder, okay? Thanks, guys. Peace.